things happening just in the last year and through the sermon series. We celebrated summer camp just last month. We had an amazing VBS. I know several of us have been in and out for just weddings. I don't even know how many weddings I've been to since May, at least 5 or 6. Welcome home to, where's Aaron? Welcome home to Aaron. I feel like he's been gone for like 3 months, so welcome home. And this summer has been so busy, so crazy with the heat, with all the rain, so much for processing, so much muggy humidity. I wish it was fall already. I just want the leaves to be here so I can just put a hoodie on and just like go on with my day. But with all the craziness, with everything happening, I feel like I'm slowly like becoming Pastor Daniel in a way. Like, you know, like when you hang around someone, you just pick up their lingo. And I feel like this last month, I've slowly been saying processing and wrestling. And I wanted to label summer 2025 the summer of processing and wrestling. As we go through seasons, as we go through things, we have to process and wrestle. It's funny, last week, Amy and I were driving to Indiana for Vinny and Ariela's wedding. And we were just driving in the dirt roads going into Fairmount, Indiana, if you know where that is. And there's just fields everywhere, and we were just driving, and it just hit me of a memory when I was a child, and I'm pretty sure everyone under 25 won't know the song, but here's some of the lyrics from the great, amazing Audio Adrenaline. Come and go with me to my Father's house. Come and go with me to my Father's house. It's a big, big house with lots and lots of rooms. It's a big, big table with lots and lots of food. It's a big, big yard. It's my Father's house. And that song, just every time I listen to it, I've been listening like every day. It just brings me chills and adrenaline and makes me think of just the childlike faith I had when I remember in VBS when I was a kid, just the memories of being a child and just doing all the motions of the house, of the food, of playing football, and all those things. It made me think, as we go through this series, we started this year out with every home being sent. We're talking about open hands, and part of that is just our calling as Christians, as believers, to be able to go and make disciples. Our mission is every home reaching every home. We do Mother's Day flowers. We did VBS this week. We do outreach. We do Madison Middle School things to be able to tell everyone, come to our Father's house, come and join us. And as we're looking at obedience today, as we go through this series, and I was preparing the message and wrestling, I had to look, okay, what does obedience mean? Because in my brain, I kind of forget what obedience is. But the Google definition of obedience, it says compliance with an order, request or law, or submission to another's authority. And I thought when I read that does not sound like obedience. Like, that just sounds like the rules and just like more of a religion and less of a relationship. It made me think of just like, ew, nasty, just ewy. Like, I think every time I see a Cybertruck, it's nothing against like Tesla or anything. It's just, they remind me of the video game Halo. So I'm just like, ewy. But that's what the definition of obedience made me think of, just ewy. It's nasty, just obedience to order, request, law, and submission to another's authority. But to understand what obedience is, we have to look at what God teaches us about obedience. And the whole focus on today is true obedience to God flows from a heart and a life lived out with open hands. Willing to receive, willing to give, and to steward faithfully. You know, growing up, I was a huge WWE fan. I don't like promote like go watch wrestling, but I grew up with wrestling. I grew up in the Attitude Era, so like DX and like if you ask my family, any family photos we took, we would go to Sears and take family photos. Every single photo, I just have like their signature like X hidden throughout photos, like on the side, like up, like just I'd always hide it, and I would just do the signs everywhere. I'd sneak into pictures. I'd wrestle with my brother and all these things, and just for a while I thought I'd be a professional wrestler. Like, I did not know I was called into ministry, didn't want to go to ministry, all these things. Growing up, my idol was Jeff Hardy and Shawn Michaels, and I was like, I want to do all those crazy things. I want to do flips. I want to do all these things. And it went so far, like, on the game system, on the Xbox, like, I had my character, I had a mask, I had to be the tall Rey Mysterio named Hero. I had, like, this whole fantasy and, like this dream of being a professional wrestler. And for those that haven't seen professional wrestling, one of the things they do is is scripted, is choreographed. No one get mad. I know that's a hot take right now with conspiracies and theories and all that and things coming up, but part of that is all about working with that teammate in the ring. They tell a story. They do moves, and part of it, they have. If you see them with like lock up on their hands, they're not fists. They're locking up. They're open hands. When they're doing flips, when they're doing submissions, it's all about making sure the other person is safe and okay. They're not really beating each other up unless it's off script, and then it gets cool. Then it gets crazy. But part of what they have to do is have their open mind, open hands when they do things. Whenever someone jumps off, they're not doing fists to catch the person. It's open hands. They're ready to catch. They're ready to receive the person. When they throw someone over, they have their hands open to give them, to throw them over the rope. There's a whole thing of what they do to be able to maneuver and get through the next stage or the next area. And it made me think of what does wrestling have to do with being a Christian? What does it mean to, as a professional wrestler with open hands, with obedience? Glad you asked. Because we live in a world that often preaches close fist. We're going to hold on. We're going to climb. We need that next promotion. We need to secure our future. We need to invest now. And it's funny because some of the scripture we're looking today it's all about money. So I feel like Daniel kind of like threw a curveball, like, okay, Joe, preach about money. And I think it's actually God was messing with me about that. But part of it is it's not just with money. It's not all of these things. But some of the things we hold on to and climb, we have to secure, is what the world teaches us. But the gospel calls us to do something radically different, to live with open hands. We see it all throughout Scripture. To be open to receive from God, open to release what He gives, and open to obey His will. Even when it costs us, obedience isn't just about rules. It's about trust, stewardship, and surrender. Take my wonderful example today. Peanut M&Ms. What do you might want some? Any? Yeah. You want some? Sorry, Blaine for the camera. You said you want some, Jimmy or Louis. You said you wanted some? Yeah. Awesome. So these are simple peanut M&Ms. This is something new. This is foreign. I don't think I've ever seen like Daniel or anyone like walk up the aisle. So, yeah. Anyone else want peanut M&Ms? No? Okay. So these are cold. I had them in the freezer. But take these simple peanut M&Ms. They're delicious. They're awesome. I love it. I love peanut M&Ms. I love Dr. Pepper. So if you ever know how to give me peanut M&Ms and Dr. Pepper. I got these for my birthday last month, so I've been like saving them for this illustration. But sometimes in life, we're told by the world to hold on, to grip, to secure your future, whereas the gospel tells us to do something radically different. Has anyone ever seen like a fire alarm be like pulled, or has anyone ever pulled a fire alarm before? So one thing, if you don't notice, usually on the handle, there's ink. So whenever someone pulls it, there's ink on their hands. Similarly to peanut M&Ms, when they're cold, when you're holding them in your grips, you let go and it kind of imprints the colors. So you kind of see the green and the red. That grip is so tight that you kind of just imprint on it. So now my hand's all red, so there's that. But part of that is we have that close grip. So if it's not peanut M&Ms, it's our time, it's our money, it's our priority, it's our focus. We're all about securing the future. That's what the world tells us. When in reality, God is saying, live with open hands. Don't let it get sticky. Don't let it get messy. One of the lessons I learned at Oakview, in one of my classes, Jim Dunn mentioned, as a pastor, do not touch the finances. Like with all the megachurches, all the big churches, all the things coming up and pastors embezzling, they're not being obedient to God's money. They're taking advantage of it. And one of the things he told me was like, no matter how big, how small a church, the head pastor should not touch the finances because that can get messy so many times. And it made me think of just the M&Ms. As I'm holding on to just 3 simple M&Ms, there's a whole bag, but I'm holding on to 3. That it's just getting sticky, it's getting nasty. And me think of just, I don't want this. Like, now they look nasty. Now one's broken. Like, no one wants this one because there's a hole in it. Okay, do you want it? Okay. Oh, so close. But part of that is just what we hold on to in life. And as we go through today, the first point I want to look at is faithful stewardship requires open hands. We can't just hold on to things. We have to have open hands. In Luke 16, we read, "So if you have not been trustworthy in worldly health, who would trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give your property to their own?" And Jesus is saying, this is Jesus reading, he makes it very clear, obedience starts with stewardship. The wealth we handle, the time we spend, even the people in our care, in our influence that are under us, it all belongs to God. These peanut M&Ms belong to God. This podium belongs to God. Our time belongs to God. Our job isn't to clutch or control, but to steward with open hands, ready to release when God says release, ready to invest where he says invest. All right, does anybody want to invest in some peanut M&Ms? No? Okay. But as we're investing, the question I had today is, are your hands open to obey what God wants you to use, what he's entrusted to you? And maybe think we just got done with our district conference, and we're commissioning lay and missionaries and ordaining new ordained pastors in the district, in the denomination. And it was one of the things I remember when Schmidt was saying was like, you have the authority now to go proclaim. One of the sessions was talking about the good news is still good. The Great Commission is still great. We have the authority, the stewardship, the obedience to go. And one of the things Wayne Schmidt said, like, to the ordained and the missionaries, are you, like, in the questions, like, are you willing to do this? Is this going to be a burden? And they said, I will. And they go through the process. But are we, church, in this physical building, in this community, are we willing to obey what God has us to do? Whether it's to go overseas and live as missionaries, whether it's to go support those missionaries we sent, or going, like Daniel says, every home, talking to our neighbor, our upstairs neighbor, downstairs, neighbor to the left, right, behind, students in the dorm rooms, random strangers. There's a person in my apartment complex, pretty interesting. If I can be honest, I try to avoid him at sometimes because it's just like, I get this eerie feeling. And so many times I've just been convicted, like, okay, I shouldn't just be trying to avoid him because, like, I get this eerie feeling. Like, I need to go and introduce myself and say hi and just start that conversation. And like I said, I'm learning Daniel's lingo. I'm still wrestling with that because part of me is like, yes, I need to. And the other part, I'm like, I feel like there's a reason why I'm staying away. But it makes me think of a banker. At a bank, there's a bank manager who's entrusted with keys of a massive vault. There's so much money at the bank, so many coins, money, like that's what the bank managers make sure to oversee and take care of it. But imagine he's responsible for it and responsibly, in accordance with the owner's will. What happens if the manager starts using that money for his own will, for his own purpose? For example, what if a pastor was using his budget, his spending, the church's money just for other things? Like imagine, like, not saying Daniel will ever do this, but like imagine if Pastor Daniel pulled up with a Corvette, brand new Corvette, Mustang, Lamborghini, I don't know cars, but like that wouldn't be good stewardship of the money. Or if you work at a company and you have a budget, if you have people and you start spending money, one thing at Oakwood, we're church constantly is like, don't spend money just to spend. Like we're safe, we're good, but don't spend it just to spend. And I always think like, okay, like my credit card or my debit card, like, okay, I probably shouldn't spend the money just because I have it. Like I shouldn't buy this brand new guitar or this pedal board, although I want to buy more guitars, more pedal boards. I think I'm like at 12. But like half of them are in the youth room, so like, but some of the things I'm like, okay, I don't need this guitar. Just because I have the money, I don't need it. Just because I have the money, I don't need a new phone. Just because I have this doesn't mean I need to spend it. And part of that, we have to remind ourselves that it all belongs to God. The 10%, the 20%, the 50%, the change, the coins. One thing I love, when I go pay rent, I have to pay in a check. And I don't want to use my card to pay for a single stamp. 78 cents, 73 cents, changes different times. So I take coins in because I collect coins. I'll find pennies, I'll pick it up. And I'll use that to pay for stamps. And it's kind of funny because every time I walk in, I'm like, it's me again. Sorry. I'm the pennies guy. And last time, I think the lady was kind of upset with me because it was at that point, it was just pennies, no dimes, no nickels. I had like 80 pennies. I was like counting to make sure. And she's like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. Like, I'll take the pennies. You take the stamp. Like, it's okay. I won't count it. But part of that is just what's our change? What's our finances? What's the time that we're just holding on to at different times? I feel like that's how many of us treat our times or resources and talents. We forget that they're God's vault, and we are only the stewards. We're not the clutch. We're not the controller. We're just the ones with the open hand holding it. Open-handed obedience means we recognize God is the owner, and we're just managing His property. But what about the small things, the smaller things? Cleaning the church, cleaning the restrooms, the closets, tithing extra. There are so many things to us that God sees that others don't. Like, let's be honest, there's things that all of us in the room do that others don't realize for this church. It's the small things that also happens. And we go the extra mile. Sometimes we don't feel appreciated because we're doing the small things that no one realizes. And I just want to say, don't give up. Keep doing the small things because God sees. Sometimes we go through private lessons and seasons and we don't know why. And years later, season later, God reveals those teachable moments. And it's interesting, like us going through those small seasons, especially the seasons behind the doors that no one really realizes. And it's hard. I can be honest, there are some seasons this past year in 2025 were super hard. And there was moments I wanted to give up. And I know there's moments that we want to give up. But to just stand your ground and say, no, I'm going to stay, I'm going to keep doing. God's got this. Like we sang in the song, He's not finished yet. He's still going. He still has this. And that goes to the next point, that obedience is proven in faithfulness. 1 Corinthians 4:2 says, now it is required that those who have been given a trust must prove faithful. The test of obedience is not success, but it's our faithfulness. We talked about faithfulness last week from Pastor Daniel. Faithfulness in the small things, in the unseen things. That open hand don't just give, they hold faithfully what God places in them. And it made me think that God isn't impressed by how much we have. Like, we're a smaller church compared to the bigger churches in town. God isn't, there's not a difference of the small churches or big church. God is impressed because how we use what we've been given. Like example, there's 150 churches in Washington County. So many different cultures, so many different denominations, so many church buildings, sizes, smaller, bigger, all these things. And I truly believe God isn't impressed with one specific one over the rest because all of us have a different mission. All of us are reaching the lost. And it's what we've been given and how we use it is where He's excited to see. That the open hand obedience means staying faithful even when the return is slow or the applause is absent. It makes me think there was a story of a lighthouse keeper in around the 90s who had a supply of oil to keep the beacon light going. And it says that locals were often ask him for a little oil. Someone asking for oil for a lamp, for heating, and wanting to be kind, he gave the oil away slowly and surely, but eventually he ran out. And one night, the light went out, a ship crashed, and lives were lost. This lighthouse keeper, it was a well-meaning. He wanted to serve. He wanted to help. He wanted to give. But for that, he was not faithful to the assignment that God had called him to. He was faithful to the task that he was given. And obedience means we prioritize what God has entrusted us with, even if it doesn't seem urgent, or means or glamorous. Even the seasons and the tasks that are over and don't make sense, there's a reason for the season. I like that rhymed. I didn't mean it. But before Oakwood, I worked at a church in Dallas. I was the intern, and I learned a lot of lessons. There was a bigger church, probably a few hundred people. They had three different services: morning, Saturday, Spanish, Sunday, different services. Big church, and even though it was a big church, there was a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that I saw. I got to help with the kids, with the youth, with the worship. I had to clean toilets. I didn't want to. I had to clean toilets at seasons. I had to turn fire alarms off. I had to climb ladders. And if y'all don't know, I'm terrified of heights. Like, I am terrified of heights. I love roller coasters because I'm secure. But last year, we had a scissor lift, and we went up to it wasn't even the top. We were like halfway through to get the old speakers. And I remember it was shaking, felt like it was like super windy, and it was like moving like this. In reality, it was like this. And I want to say, Chase, were you on there with me? Okay. Yeah, it was us two on it, and it moved a little more than I wanted. And I screamed, and someone came and was like, oh, what girl screamed? And they're like, it was Joe. But throughout that 2-3 years I was there were some seasons, if I can be honest, it was a big, dark church when no one was there. Dark hallways, like the windows were like blacked out. And there was times I would get there 6, 7 a.m. in the morning. We would set up, we would make sure everything's ready. We would like individually, every chair we would make sure would be locked with the other. It was perfectly aligned. The light bulbs were clean. I remember having on scissor lifts and things just to like move things just a centimeter. The worst thing out of that whole church, I don't like using the H word, but like I say with youth, sometimes I say controversial things, and I'm going to say something. I hate locking churches up. I know, it's a bad word, but I hate locking churches up. Even here, there's times I hate doing it because I am terrified of heights, and I'm terrified of the dark. Like, I'm surprised I don't sleep with a nightlight, but I'm terrified of the dark, especially when those back 2 doors are open, and it's like 9 p.m., and I'm locking up, and no one's here, and I hear things, and I'm just like, I feel like someone's watching me. But there was moments in that church I had to go through all the hallways, the second floors, the alleyway, and the lights on the outside was bad. But there were so many doors. I think there was probably 20 keys just to lock the first physical floor of. I think there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different buildings, and we'd have to go around midnight, me and the other intern. But there were so many times I had to do it myself, and I had my flashlight on. I had worship music blasting just so people knew, like, okay, I'm not afraid. I'm just walking, like, confidently, just shaking, like, okay, locking this door up. And so many times I'm just, like, screaming, shouting, all right, I'm locking up. Anyone in here? And, like, deep down, I'm, like, on the phone with my friend. I'm like, please be on call, because if you don't hear anything after 5 seconds, call the 911. Like, I'm running. Like, I'm not using my keys. I'm running through the glass door. Like, if something happens, I'm not going this way. I'm going through that glass. I'm not waiting. Like, I'm sorry. Like, if something happened, we just had to run out. Like, sorry, Amy. I'm running through that way through the glass, and I'm not stopping up. Like, I think there was a story growing up. I don't remember as much with my memory, but my older sister had a plate and a snake, and she told me, here, hold the plate. The snake's on it. This is where I get a lot of my fear from. Thank you, Ashley, because I'm terrified of snakes. And she grabs my shirt and I'm holding the plate and the snake. She open my shirt and puts the snake down my shirt. It was cold apparently that day, and I just take all my clothes off. I'm running in and out of the house. I'm just running. And I feel like, as a kid, screaming, shouting, running, like almost naked, just trying to get like this snake off. It's obviously off, and I'm just running and running and running until someone stops me and says, it's gone, it's okay. And I feel like sometimes we have to do that with our faith. Sometimes we're constantly running and running and running, and maybe we're waiting for God to say, stop, you're okay. Or we're in a season and we're waiting for God to just open the gates so we can run from whatever we're going through. And maybe God is saying, that gate, that door, that window isn't there yet. And maybe think of just, as we go to the next point, that open hands are ready to give and to share. One thing, I think I'm about to start be here for 4 years, I think? 4? 3 or 4 years. It's been a while, wow. And a lot has changed, though. The carpet, the stage, the new roof, the AC, the painting on the outside. Like there's people in this neighborhood didn't know we were here until after the paint. And they said, how long have y'all been here? And it's like, we've been here for decades. We've done Mother's Flowers outreach for decades. We've been here in this community, and there's still people in the city doesn't know where Sooner Park Wesleyan is at. And part of the journey that we do, I love that we're small. I love that we're a small church because I know probably 95 people, 95% of this room by name. I know your name. Sorry for the 5%. I'm still a little introverted at times. But as a small church, we thrive and strive on giving and sharing. There's a lot bigger churches in the community. And one thing at district conference, we were doing a poll of just a survey of like Western Church is known for. And out of a room of dozens and dozens of people, within the top 5, one of them was Mother's Day outreach flowers. And that hit me. I was like, wow. For just having a few people at the church representing us, that still was in the top 5. Like something small as just going in the awful heat with the rain, walking door to door, and just giving a flower. But there's so much meaning behind that. And it was just a refreshing reminder of knowing even something as a flower for Mother's Day. And it made me think 3 years ago when Sean, we were doing a route, and there is this one family in the community, I believe they're Catholic, and we knocked on the door, and the mom opened up and was just like, oh my gosh, I thought you were my son. Like, you look just like my son. And she invited, she gave us chocolate that first year, and then the second year we came around, luckily it was just me and Sean wasn't there, because we were fighting for that route. Like, we want this house. We want to see that lady again for chocolate. It wasn't great, but it was chocolate. And I went the second time and knocked on the door, and she's like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting. I think that was the year that we broke it up 2 weeks, I think. And the lady was like, I've been waiting. Like, some people got it last week. I was waiting for mine. And was just a simple gesture of Happy Mother's Day. Here's a flower. She ended up inviting me to her inside the house, and they had their own little personal chapel in there. And she showed me the book and how the bishop in Tulsa came up to her house and signed it. And she showed me, and I had signed it. And it was just this moment of just all the walls, or all the crosses on the wall, and just this personal chapel. And it made me think of just a simple Mother's Day flower. Never knew she was in this community. Never knew her name. But knowing that she has her own chapel to worship and to pray and to go to God when she needs him the most. And it made me think of just 1 Timothy as we look at open hands are ready to give and to share. In 1 Timothy 6, command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, but to put their hope in God. Command them to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. And here in 1 Timothy, I believe Paul is sharing, and he's not shaming the rich. I feel like in some of these scriptures about focusing on money and finance, it's all about give your 10%. You make $1 million, give that 10%. You make $1 billion, give that 10%. Give the money, give it. And instead, I feel like he's not shaming the rich, but he's redirecting their trust. I know there's seasons and times when I'm like, okay, I got a few dollars in my bank account for the next week before I get paid. I'm not spending any money. Like, that's my money. And I hold the grip. I hold it. I'm like, this is my money. I'm not spending it. And again, just like the M&Ms in the beginning, my hands are stained. And I feel like Paul's saying that it's not about having wealth, but whether your hands are open to give it. Generosity is a mark of obedience. It says that God, I trust you more than I trust the finances. I know that I'm slowly becoming an adult. I'm 26, and I'm like, how did I make it this far? Like, no one taught me finances. No one told me you had to pay gas on time, electric on time, car insurance. Like, it finally went down $20 when I turned after 25, and I was like, this is awesome. I get to save $20 more. My electric bill, I think last summer it was like, it was high. And this summer it's like $20, $30 cheaper than last year. I'm like, man, this is great. I'm saving money. This is good. And it's like, okay, it's super cheap. And I'm the one, like, I will keep my AC off all day until right before I go to bed. I put a fan on, barely put my AC on. but part of it is like saving, like, okay, this is nice. Like, I like cheap bills. Being an adult is nice. And there's a whole other side of being an adult. I'm like, man, this sucks. Like, if I can be honest, like, I got to pay how much for eggs? For milk? Last week with the whole water boiler thing, like, Amy and I were just walking into Walmart. I didn't even know there was a water boil happening. We saw a pastor, and we joked like, "Oh, you're thirsty?" And he's like, "Did you not see the news?" And everyone's in Walmart. We're just walking. There's pallets of water being emptied in seconds by people, carts filled with water. And I'm like, y'all, this world is crazy at times. Like, this world is crazy. And I feel like there's so many things that we see, and it's like, with the case of water, for example, we're going to buy all the water. We're going to buy it. But just like the toilet paper in COVID, now we have a bunch of water. And it was awesome to see some of the members last week. They had cases. They bought it. And they brought it here. Hey, take some free water. And it was just that generosity, that obedience of, okay, I know there's a water bin. Other people need water, so let's give it out. We are called to be the channels, not the containers. And maybe think like with M&Ms, like, no one saw that. No one saw the fly. It's okay. But for the bag of M&Ms, we are the container, not the zipper. Like, if I zip this up, okay, it's mine. But being the container, holding it in, we take shape. We talk about being broken vessels, that God's the canvas and the clay. We are the container. We are the sculpture. We are not the controller. We are not the one holding tight so no one can touch it. We are the channels, the containers. Obedience is not what we accumulate, but in what we release for God's purpose. And it makes me think of John 6. A young boy offered his small lunch, just 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And we know the story. It wasn't much. Jesus fed more, it's according to 5,000 people, and that was just the count of men. It wasn't the wives, it wasn't the kids. It was, for that, just the 5,000 men. So I was reading one of the commentaries, and it was like, it could have been up to 10,000 people of 5 fish and 2 loaves. But I thought was awesome because the boy stood out because he was obedient, and he was willing to be like, here's my 5 fish, here's my 2 loaves. It became the seed for a miracle. And Jesus took what the boy gave freely and fed thousands. And so many times I feel like God often does his work through what we are willing to release. The boy didn't clutch his food and say, okay, this is my 5 fish, this is my 2 loaves, like this is mine. He was open and willing to give it, trusting that God can do far more with it than what he could have ever imagined. And maybe thinks of, what if some of us are waiting for that next thing from God? What if we're in that season that we have our fish, we have our loaves, and we're asking God, do something great. When is the next thing going to happen? And maybe it's because we are holding it, not even tightly gripped, but maybe we have some type of close grip. God, here's my peanut M&Ms. Do something with it. God, here's my time. It's only 20 minutes. Do something with it. And maybe God is somebody just waiting for us to release all of it for that whole time. I feel like this season is interesting. Amy, I didn't even ask to share this, but hope you don't get mad. You'll probably get mad later. But one of the things we've been doing right now is going through premarital counseling, and I feel like we've learned a lot. Like, we're about 20 days away from getting married. It's okay. Everyone's invited. We're going to do an announcement later. It's just with invitations, with summer, with camp, everything. It's been busy. So if you haven't got like an RSVP, it's okay. Like, we're going to do a church announcement. But part of it is we've been working on is communication as two individuals getting ready to become one, to live together. And I know there's times, as couples do, they get in disagreements. They have miscommunications. And one thing I'm trying to work on right now is like, okay, when we get married, we can't go to our own different apartments. Like, we're going to be in one room. And it made me think of, we're about 20 days away. I'm just like there's a time that's like, okay, what if we just elope? To get all of the craziness away, to just all these things. And I know, like, it's a joke. Like, I don't want to elope. Like, I want to get married in a ceremony. But part of it is just like, there's so many stresses, so many things. Like, What if we did this instead of this to please this person? What if we did this to just make it easier for everyone else? What if we just stop what we're doing and focus on other things? And part of that communication is really learn that I am not a good communicator. Like, if I can be honest, I'm not a good communicator. People will text me and it'll take 2 months to respond. And if I respond to you within 2 months, hey, that's an awesome thing. Like, I didn't realize that. But part of it is at times I'm like, okay, my hands are open here, but this hand is closed. I'm open here with this time, but this hand is closed. And one of the things I feel like God's been challenging me is focusing on where is my trust. I know this hand is open, but what about my left hand with the mic? Like right now, it's pretty gripped, pretty hard because I don't want to drop the mic because I've dropped a few mics in the past. Thankfully, none has broken. But part of that is all about holding on with open hands and not closed hands. And it makes me think, this is totally impromptu, but when you're playing the piano, like for piano players, like there's no way you can do a closed grip and smash and play the keys. You're going to smash them. You have to have an open grip. When you're playing guitar, you can't just strum with a fist. You have to have your hands open. When you're dealing with the Shark Tank and the kids in the back and the toddlers in the kids' corner, you can't just like grab a kid with a fist. You have to hold them open. When we're serving, when we're greeting, when we're talking to people, it's never a closed grip. It's always open hands. And many things of just sometimes it's not a physical open hand. Maybe it's a heart posture. Maybe it's the mind, the different postures, the seasons. And as we're getting ready to close, some of the biggest things that I really thought about open hands, that you can't have open hands without obeying, having faithfulness, generosity, and steward. That open hands obeys even when it costs. Open hands stewards with faithfulness and not with pride. To have open hands, give generously, trusting God as the source. And it made me ask these questions. Am I holding on to anything God has asked me to release in this season? Am I being faithful with what He's entrusted me to? Whether it's teaching, cleaning bathrooms, leading, or simply sitting and waiting. We all have so many different jobs. We have so many different areas, so many different ministries. And maybe think of, is my obedience based on convenience or trust? I always think of a story of when I hear pastors saying, when you're at the ledge and the next thing is simply to take that next step off and let God hold you and take you to that next season. And it made me think of just like some of us are literally right at the edge, waiting for God, saying, where's the next step for me? And I hate it because God has called me out so many times. I have wrestled with Him with me because sometimes I've been right here and asking Him, God, where's the next season? Where's that tunnel? There is a lot, I was wrestling with a lot in this spring for different decisions that would have affected so much. And constantly I was like, God, I remember asking Him this prayer so many times, God, by August 1, if I do not get the answer, I'm staying put. And the next day, I got a text, and it was like, this door is closing. And I was like, this is okay. Like, I wasn't expecting a text, but in those final days, I was like, God, by August 1st, if this has not happened, I'm staying put. I'm staying here. I'm not going for this. I'm not pursuing that. I'm staying right here. And finally, on August 1st, I worked up, and I sent the text, okay, I'm not doing this. And I sent it to the few people for the decisions. And later the next day, I got a text from another one like, hey, actually, things are not working out. We're going to go ahead and move past and do this. And made me think of, I was literally waiting for that next step. And God was waiting for me to just stop focusing on the step and staying planted. And I know usually in the fall we dive in the fall Bible studies. We dive into membership and classes. And it really hit me as we just get ready for communion. So one of the final scriptures I had was 1 Timothy 6, specifically 19. In this way, they will lay up treasures for themselves as a firm foundation for coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. This is a life that we're not invited to. It's a life truly lived, not clenched in fear, but surrendered in obedience. Sometimes our step is to give our money, our 10%, our 12%. If I can be honest, that's probably one of the hardest things I've been wrestling with God for years. How do I give that 10%? How do I get to 8%, to 9% to get it? And this has been, if I can be honest, 3-year journey to get to where I need to be, where God has called. Some of us is not money. Some of us is time. Alone time with God in the morning, in the night, prayer, opening the Word, spending in worship. I know that Bible studies are starting back up. Kids on Wednesdays starting back up. Our college students are about to come back. And what if some of us, it is trusting with that 10%. But what if instead, He's saying, open your hands and use them this fall. Open them hands and use them with your neighbor, with that one coworker you don't like, that non-believer that you know they need to hear Jesus. What if it's your time and your hands? Unashamed plug for youth and worship. Since the youth pastor. I've been praying this whole fall. We took a break for youth, and this whole break for summer, I've just been diving in and focusing on the students for the fall and spring. And we're doing some new things. We're changing up, revamping youth, new leaders, new stuff. And one of the things I kept thinking is no matter what is in the youth room, whether it's a pool table, whether it's a basketball hoop, whether it's a huge youth facility, or just us physically being in the room. And this last summer, we took 6 students. I haven't shared this Daniel yet, but this past summer we took 6 students to camp. And I'm kind of nervous, but I think we can take 15 next summer to camp. We have a youth group of 6 consecutively. I think last youth night we had 10, 12. I don't even know where we're going to get the students at. But I feel like for some reason as a small church in our community, in our cul-de-sacs, that God is saying we're not done at youth camp. This summer, every student got a Bible, and it was simply reset. And this whole summer has been processing and wrestling, resetting with our childlike faith. Faith, trusting, obedience. And I truly believe God is saying next summer, Sooner Park is sending 15 students. It may not be our physical 6 students. We may get to 15, or it may be 7 other students in the community that need to hear Jesus. I know we're starting back Bible studies and worship, and we're starting to do more worship nights. Maybe it's greeting. Maybe as introverts, you're like, I don't want to greet because I'm an introvert. Or an extrovert saying, actually, I don't need time for rest. Whatever it is, I feel like there's big plans that I feel like Sooner Park has been right on the hill for the last 4 years. That is just greatness as decisions are being made, as we have been faithful and obedient to God. That I know there's times I'm like, wow, there isn't a lot of people here. And part of that is because of travel, because of schedule. And maybe God's like, they don't need to be here today. And whatever the case is, giving, helping, tithing, praying. I know God's been stirring a lot in my heart this summer. And I encourage you to stir in the uncomfortability, to wrestle with God, to process with Him. As we get ready to celebrate communion, I remember, I think it was 2019. No, 2017. I remember being in my grandma's room in her final days. And I think this is the first time I've ever heard the song, How Great Thou Art. And that was 8 years ago. And I remember sitting in the corner of the room with her church members just singing How Great Thou Art in Spanish. I didn't know the lyrics. I just knew in that moment, as I'm losing my loved one, what's going to happen? What is it going to feel like to lose someone? What is it going to be like to clean up, to change the room and all that stuff? And I remember just sitting there in the corner, just hidden in the corner as everyone's from the church is just singing and praying over her. And I just felt like God was saying, God's got this. He has this. Whatever season we're going through, whatever fears we're going through, if we don't know where that next step is, if we're waiting for the next step, if we're needing to just dive down and be rooted. And I'll never forget just that peace, that childlike faith again of the Holy Spirit coming over and saying, it's going to be okay. And I feel like sometimes we just have to remember, no matter what age we are, have that childlike faith. Like, can I be honest? Does anybody remember when they surrendered their life to Jesus? That feeling, the overflowing presence, the Holy Spirit coming in, that comforting feeling of hope and peace. And I feel like in my life, I've forgotten that so much because life is so crazy. And every time I remember that, I have to reset and know my God is bigger than anything. And as we prep for communion, to just be reminded of just the obedience that we have. And I'm just going to have us just spend a few moments, just sit with your hands open. And it's going to be uncomfortable maybe, but we're going to sit for a few moments and just wrestle and process and see what God has been working in our hearts. The night of the Last Supper, we read in Scripture that as they're celebrating the Passover and communion, that Jesus takes the bread and he breaks it and says, eat, take this, eat. This is my body that was broken for you. Do this in remembrance. And after supper, they take the wine. We're using grape juice. But he says, take this, drink this, and do this in remembrance. This is the blood that was shed for you. As we come to the table for communion with open hands, it's an open table, meaning you don't have to be a member of this church, but just a member of God's family. And if you're not there yet today, I'd encourage you to just have open hands and just spend some time wrestling and processing with God. And if you are a member of his family, I don't want to assume if you are or aren't, but if you are a member, we're going to do something called intinction. An Oku's way version is rip and dip, but you're going to grab a piece of the bread and dip it into the juice. And as you're taking it, I'm going to open the altars. If you need some time to process and wrestle, we have an altar on the left, the right, and then one in the back. But I encourage you, if you need some time, spend some time with God. Take the communion, pray with Him, and you can go to your seats, and we're just going to spend some time celebrating, remembering His death and His resurrection, that the body was broken and the blood was shed, and we have the authority to live in the freedom with Him. So I invite you to stand and come to the table of communion.